everyone, welcome back to the Social Security Hub channel. Today, we're diving into a breaking development that could shake the very foundation of data privacy in America. The Supreme Court has just cleared the way for a previously unheard of level of access to your personal Social Security data. This isn't a rumor. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a real legal move with real consequences. Imagine every piece of information tied to your Social Security profile, your medical history, employment background, tax filings, even mental health evaluations, now fully accessible by a newly created federal agency that has no prior track record of managing this kind of sensitive data. That agency? It goes by the name DOGE, short for the Department of Government Efficiency. What we're looking at here isn't just another government restructuring. This is about giving an untested agency the master key to some of the most confidential records the government holds. This change wasn't passed by lawmakers, debated in Congress, or discussed in any open forum. It was quietly authorized by a Supreme Court decision delivered in the shadows. And now, the stakes are incredibly high. What makes this situation even more alarming is the way it all unfolded, entirely outside the normal democratic process. There was no congressional debate, no Senate oversight hearing, and no opportunity for public comment. Instead, the decision arrived through an unsigned emergency order issued by the Supreme Court. That means there was no oral argument, no legal briefings made available to the public, and no media coverage in the lead-up to the ruling. It simply appeared, signatures from the majority of justices, without any indication of who wrote the opinion or why it bypassed the usual judicial procedure. As a result, DOGE now has full clearance to operate within federal data systems that were, until now, considered off-limits even to law enforcement without a warrant. Critics have been quick to respond, with many calling this the largest overreach of personal privacy in modern American history. Legal scholars are stunned not just by the substance of the decision, but by the method, a stealth maneuver that many argue skirts constitutional checks and balances. The fact that such a sweeping action happened behind closed doors has only intensified the outcry, prompting urgent calls for transparency, oversight, and legislative intervention. So, who or what exactly is DOGE? The Department of Government Efficiency, abbreviated as DOGE, was officially launched on the very first day Donald Trump returned to office in January 2025. Its stated mission sounds harmless, even admirable, to cut government waste, eliminate fraud, and modernize federal operations. On the surface, that sounds like a breath of fresh air. After all, who wouldn't want less bureaucracy, faster services, and more efficient use of taxpayer dollars? But critics say the problem isn't with the mission, it's with the execution. Rather than gradually suggesting reforms or building safeguards, DOGE has opted to go straight for the jugular, targeting the nation's most secure and sensitive databases. It has skipped the pilot programs, ignored conventional data privacy protocols, and plunged headfirst into federal systems like Social Security without clear legal authorization, at least until the Supreme Court's sudden ruling. While the agency is technically under the executive branch, its oversight structure remains murky. There's no dedicated watchdog, no independent inspector general, and no legal precedent for an agency with such sweeping data access. DOGE's arrival, backed by tech moguls and political insiders, represents a radical shift in how government efficiency is defined and how it's executed. Why should this matter to you? Because DOGE now controls access to the most comprehensive digital profiles the U.S. government maintains on its citizens, and yours is almost certainly among them. We're talking about more than just Social Security numbers or old tax forms. The Social Security Administration's database is a vast treasure trove of deeply personal information, including your full medical history, reported income, immigration details, school transcripts, disability claims, even mental health notes submitted during benefits applications. This is the kind of data that privacy laws like HIPAA and the Privacy Act of 1974 were designed to protect. But now, a single agency, created just months ago, has been handed the keys to that vault. The justification offered by the administration is simple: fraud prevention. Elon Musk, who was a driving force behind DOGE's creation, claimed that millions in Social Security funds were being sent to deceased individuals. That claim became the rationale for giving DOGE full-spectrum access. However, both a district court and an appeals court had already ruled that such access violated existing privacy protections. Despite those decisions, the Supreme Court intervened, lifting all blocks without providing a detailed explanation. In effect, DOGE's access was granted before its legality was even confirmed, leaving millions of Americans vulnerable. Think this only affects those who actively receive Social Security benefits? Think again. DOGE's reach is rapidly expanding. The agency has already filed access requests for data from Medicare, Medicaid, Veterans Affairs, and several other major federal programs. That means if you've ever applied for government health care, received veterans benefits, filed for disability, or even used a federal student loan program, your data could be next. We're not just talking about a handful of people. This impacts tens of millions of Americans from all walks of life. Civil liberties groups, privacy advocates, and federal employee unions are already pushing back hard. The American Civil Liberties Union has warned that this type of unfettered access sets a dangerous precedent for surveillance. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson issued a sharply worded dissent, warning that the Supreme Court's move allows the federal government to open the most sensitive data vaults in the country without adequate legal safeguards or clarity. In her opinion, millions are now exposed without even the minimal protections usually guaranteed by federal law. The concern isn't just about misuse, it's about lack of control. Once access is granted and data is copied or moved, there's no way to truly put the genie back in the bottle. Let's zoom out for a moment and look at what this means on a bigger scale. We're not just talking about abstract policy decisions or theoretical legal debates. We're talking about real, tangible impacts on your personal privacy. Your life, in data form, is now more accessible to a government agency than ever before. Your health diagnoses, income records, employment history, family data, education credentials, and psychological assessments are all part of that profile. Once an agency like DOGE gains access to this information, there's no guarantee that it will remain secure or private. There's no undo button if something leaks, and no reset option if it's misused. Proponents argue that such access is necessary to fight fraud and increase efficiency, but critics counter that this is precisely how authoritarian control can quietly take root, by normalizing unchecked access to private information. Without transparency, oversight, and clearly defined limits, we risk creating a system where privacy becomes the exception instead of the norm. The fact that all this began with a secret court order only adds to the alarm. The digital age demands stronger protections, not fewer. This move by the Supreme Court is a giant leap in the opposite direction. Elon Musk's role in the creation and rapid rise of DOGE cannot be overstated. As one of its earliest and most vocal champions, Musk framed the agency as a bold leap into what he called smart governance. He advocated for real-time auditing, AI-assisted fraud detection, and blockchain-backed transparency. Many of his proposals struck a chord with tech-savvy reformers who have long criticized the slow, inefficient machinery of Washington. But here's the twist. Musk exited the project just as it gained full legal clearance, stepping away in early June without explanation. The timing has left many observers puzzled and concerned. Did he foresee political or legal fallout? Was the agency reshaped in ways he didn't anticipate? His departure raised questions about whether the original vision of transparency and innovation is being replaced by unchecked power and data harvesting. Supporters continue to claim that DOGE is unlocking the full potential of government systems, but critics argue that it's doing so by trampling on privacy norms and opening back doors into citizens' lives. This isn't about party lines or political preferences. This is about one critical question: who controls your personal information, and what can they do with it once they have it? The answer to that question is more urgent than ever. Let's get one thing straight. This isn't just a bureaucratic shuffle or a headline for policy nerds. This decision marks a seismic shift in how the U.S. government handles your most personal information. The administration argues that the system desperately needs cleanup, pointing to outdated databases and bloated inefficiencies. Elon Musk, who was instrumental in launching DOGE, even claimed publicly that millions of dollars in Social Security checks were being paid to dead people. That narrative became the justification for granting DOGE sweeping access to federal data systems. But here's where things get complicated and deeply controversial. Months ago, a district court actually blocked DOGE from accessing those systems, citing major concerns about violations of the Privacy Act. The appeals court reviewed that block and agreed. They found that DOGE's access likely violated existing federal privacy protections and civil liberties safeguards. So imagine the shock on June 6th when the Supreme Court suddenly intervened and lifted the block, giving DOGE full access. No hearing, no public notice, no detailed explanation, just an unsigned emergency order. Legal challenges are still pending, but that didn't stop DOGE from diving in. Privacy watchdogs now call this a silent breach, a moment when access was granted before legality was confirmed. If you think this story is only about people on Social Security benefits, think again. This affects practically every American with a digital presence in federal systems. DOGE is not stopping with Social Security. They've already submitted formal data access requests for Medicare, Medicaid, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and even the federal student aid system. That means if you've ever filed a federal tax return, received disability payments, applied for food assistance, or even gotten your health care through a government program, your information could soon be part of DOGE's expanding data reach. Civil liberties groups are sounding every alarm they have. Unions representing government workers are warning of data misuse. Privacy advocates say this is the first domino in a chain of potential overreach. And even inside the highest court, concern is bubbling. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson issued a rare public dissent, warning that granting full access to these systems without legal clarity or guardrails is irresponsible and dangerous. According to her, millions of Americans are now exposed, and the safeguards that usually protect them are nowhere in sight. She called the move premature and warned that once this door is opened, closing it again may prove impossible. This isn't hypothetical, it's real, and it's happening now. Let's take a breath and step back to see the full picture. This issue is not just about data or court decisions. It's about your identity, the complete digital footprint that defines who you are in the eyes of the federal government. From your birth certificate to your last tax return, from your medical procedures to your school records, all of it exists in federal databases. Now, for the first time in modern U.S. history, a single agency, newly created, barely regulated, and largely unchecked, has the ability to comb through all of it. That includes your income, your employment record, your home address history, your prescription medications, and even the notes therapists have submitted as part of disability or benefits reviews. Once accessed, that data can be shared, stored, cross-referenced, or worse, leaked. And there's no undo button for that, no control panel where you can revoke access. Some argue that fraud prevention and efficiency justify this kind of power. But many experts warn that once this precedent is set, it's incredibly difficult to reverse. This is how systems of control are often built, not with loud announcements, but with quiet authorizations. This isn't just a privacy conversation, it's a power conversation, and you're part of it. Elon Musk's involvement with DOGE adds another layer of complexity and intrigue to this already explosive story. Musk was one of the earliest and loudest voices pushing for DOGE's creation, selling it as the future of smart governance. He pitched a streamlined system that would fight fraud, reduce waste, and inject Silicon Valley speed into Washington's sluggish bureaucracy. The idea was compelling. Why not use AI, automation, and advanced data analytics to modernize the way the federal government operates? But here's where things get murky. After months of driving the initiative and appearing in public briefings, Musk suddenly stepped away from the project just days before the Supreme Court's decision. There was no press release, no statement, no clear reason for his exit. It raised immediate questions. Did he foresee legal blowback? Was the agency changing in ways he no longer supported? Some insiders claim the agency was restructured behind closed doors to broaden its power. Others suggest Musk saw the writing on the wall and didn't want to be tied to the fallout. Supporters say DOGE will improve how government functions, but critics argue it opens a dangerous backdoor to citizen data. One thing is clear, the story of DOGE isn't just political, it's deeply personal. Imagine waking up one day to find out a brand new federal agency has full access to your entire life's records, without your knowledge, without your consent, and without any official notice. Would you feel secure knowing your mental health assessments, job history, and personal income details are now accessible by a government office that didn't even exist a year ago. Wouldn't you want to know who made that decision? Wouldn't you demand to see the documentation, the oversight, the accountability? This is not a thought experiment. It's happening now, and the ripple effects will touch every American who has ever interacted with the federal system, which is nearly all of us. The real concern isn't just what DOGE is doing today, it's what it enables for tomorrow. Because once this level of access becomes normalized, it sets a precedent. Other agencies can follow suit. Private contractors could lobby for similar rights. So ask yourself, what happens to the laws designed to protect your data when the enforcers themselves become the extractors? If the process isn't transparent now, how do we hold anyone accountable later? Share your thoughts in the comments. This issue needs public eyes, voices, and resistance. Your digital rights are on the line. Despite the dramatic developments, this isn't the end of the story. Not yet. The Supreme Court's decision to grant DOGE emergency access to federal databases is only temporary. Legal experts describe it as provisional clearance, meaning the full legality of DOGE's actions is still being reviewed by lower courts. But here's what's concerning. In the time it takes for those courts to rule, DOGE can continue to access and process data at scale. That's why multiple privacy watchdogs are racing to file Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) requests, demanding internal emails, memos, and documents that show how this decision was made. Who signed off? Were risks acknowledged? What internal concerns were raised? Meanwhile, other government agencies are watching this very closely. If DOGE gets away with this, it could create a legal playbook that future departments or administrations will follow. The rules that protect your data today could look very different in a matter of months. If a legal shortcut works once, history shows it'll be used again. The long-term implications aren't just legal, they're cultural. How much privacy are we willing to give up in the name of efficiency? And who decides when the trade-off goes too far? At the end of the day, this story isn't just about federal systems or Elon Musk or obscure court orders. It's about people, individuals, families, and communities whose private information is now sitting in the hands of a new agency with unprecedented access and little oversight. It's about you and your right to control the most sensitive details of your life. Understanding how your data flows through government systems empowers you to ask better questions, demand more transparency, and defend your rights more effectively. Yes, the Supreme Court's decision may be temporary, but the ripple effect it creates could last decades. What feels like a technical policy shift today could evolve into tomorrow's digital privacy crisis. If there's ever been a time to stay informed and engaged, it's now. Because once the door to your data is opened, it's nearly impossible to close. If this video gave you a new perspective or helped you understand what's at stake, please hit like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for future updates. More is coming. Updates, analysis, and guidance to help you stay protected in a fast-changing digital world. Until next time, stay smart, stay safe, and look out for each other.